any of my fellow board members have anything under unanticipated? Anybody from the audience have anything under unanticipated? That's an announcement, isn't it? Okay. Under announcements, we'll try to get through this, but I'm going to ask for a moment of silence for, I may not get through it, for Jesse Eckel, young man passed away this week in the very early stages of his life. We'd just like to ask for a moment of silence for him. And if you could keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. And there are some, there's a very nice article in the Enterprise about this whole situation, which brings to light the fantastic town we live in. And I was quite moved by that, and you all deserve a round of applause for what you do. Thank you. Do we have any other announcements from the board?
I just have a quick one. It's a bit of a personal nature, but I promised my daughter I'd say hello to her on TV tonight. So, hello, Kennedy. And thank you for indulging me in that. I appreciate it.
First things first. Anybody else? You have something?
I do.
Go ahead.
Friday, I attended the little get-together for David Makowitz, and it was really nice over at the police station, and he asked me to extend his thanks. The Board of Selectmen, we presented him with a proclamation for his 37 years of service to the town, and he assured me he's not going anywhere, he's going to keep working, so we're glad about that. On another note, a while back when I gave my PowerPoint on tourism, a few of the things I said had to be done before we moved forward was to have our intern hired, which we did, and we needed to secure the funding in order to move forward. Well, I'm happy to announce that the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism has awarded us $25,000. It is official, and they will be setting that up and sending it. To promote the town for our website, our flyers, our brochures, advertising, maps, everything. So I would like to extend my thanks to them. This is great. We're on the way, Middleborough. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great job. So far, the Board of Selectmen has managed to get rid of the Rotary problem and take care of tourism. What more can you ask for?
Working on that trailer park issue, too.
Oh, dear God in heaven. Okay. Mr. Quill, do you have anything?
No.
No?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one other announcement. The weather permitting, there'll be a forum on the police station renovation and expansion project this Wednesday at 7 p.m. in this room, and we'll have the architect here to present the designs, and the committee will make a presentation and answer questions from the public. So that'll be 7 p.m. Wednesday, February 4th. Weather permitting, yeah, because we have another storm coming, unfortunately.
Okay, any from the audience, any announcements? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brian Giovanoni. I'm a member of the school committee, and I wanted to let the public know, if you haven't already seen it online or in the paper, that this Thursday, February 6th at 6:30, we are holding one of our public meetings, and there's a couple interesting items in this meeting coming up, one of which is further discussion on the wellness policy. It's being revamped to address some more of the allergy issues that we have in our community. So we want to make sure that we protect the children. We'll be discussing that. We're going to be touching upon the capital plan for the schools over the next 5 years, which you'll see probably throughout the year, either in this room or at town meeting. But we'll be discussing those items. I think we're going to be transferring the Green School, or voting to hopefully transfer care, custody, and control to this board. So that's coming up. we'll be voting on the new school calendar for next year, and it looks like we have a potential for beginning before Labor Day weekend next year, which we would start, if we did, potentially start August, last Monday in August, and the students would start on Wednesday. They would go to school Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday would be off, and then the Monday would be off for the holiday, and then they'd continue on the Tuesday again. But it's something new for Middleborough. I don't think we've seen it in years, ever, maybe, ever. So this is something that's new, so that'll be discussed as well. So Thursday, February 6th, at the Nichols Middle School Auditorium, 6:30 p.m., school committee meeting. Please come on down if you're interested. Thank you.
Yep.
And so, now I realize it's Wednesday, February 5th, that the police station forum will take place on. I said the 4th, it's the 5th.
Okay. And do we have a rain date scheduled yet, or we're going to play that by ear?
Yeah, we'll play by ear.
Any other announcements? Okay. We have the minutes. I would entertain a motion for the minutes for the January 27, 2014 regular meeting minutes. What? What?
We're postponing that till next week.
Okay. In that case, we'll postpone that till next week. I would entertain a motion for the chairman or his designee to sign the warrants for the week ending January 31st, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. New business. We'll discuss the appointment of the Tourism Committee. And that would be Lalani Delp, Glenn Montepart, and Karen Blair for 3-year terms, Mary Stone, Winston Stone for 2-year terms, Judy Bigelow Costa, and Sherry Hartland Neely for 1-year terms. Pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before we make a motion, I was just wondering if maybe there seem to be at least 2 couples that, on that board that are married, and maybe we should stagger their terms?
We decided not to stagger it because chances are when one leaves,
Yeah,
the
well,
other
that's
will.
what I was hoping, we could maybe stagger them and keep it a
Yeah,
little
we did
longer.
discuss it. They
All right.
seem to agree to this, so.
Okay.
So you want to be stuck with him for 3 years?
No.
Your call.
I
You got the
think
perfect
Let's hope
opportunity.
it's going to be longer than that.
It's all right. Okay.
So just a clarification, so the 3-year term will end in 2016, the 2-year term 2015, and the 1-year term in 2014, June 30th, correct? Otherwise, we're going to have these things coming up at the end of January, which I think we've been trying to
Okay, we
avoid.
can do that the fiscal year.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that means the 1-year terms will appoint again this July.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
Mr. Chair?
yes,
Motion to approve?
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Do I need to abstain because I'm on it?
Might as well.
Sure,
Okay.
abstain.
Abstain.
Thank you. One thing you do want to do, our town charter indicates that you have to have a set of, you have to have a
Disclosure?
statement of
Purpose? Intent?
purpose.
Okay.
So you want to develop all that? You need
Yep.
to have minutes, you need to follow the
We
open
have been
meeting
doing
law.
that, yep, we have.
Okay. And the minutes have to be submitted?
Yep. And posted, we had to do it.
And your meetings have to be posted according to open meeting law.
Mhm.
Very good. Mr. Moderator, did I miss anything on that? I think I hit all the topics, right? Okay. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is a vote to approve an all-day, correction, a one-day all-alcohol liquor license for the Bartender Services of New England for February 15th from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. at the Town Hall. And this is for the
Soul Homestead Annual Valentine's Day Dance.
Correct. Very good. Any comments or questions?
It's a hell of a good time.
It's very good.
You said comments.
I did. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. I guess we're not keeping very good control here tonight. Okay, next item on the agenda is the vote to approve the payment of Wright and Pierce invoices for pilot testing for $19,432.02, and for schematic design for $42,648.04.
Mr. Chairman, this is the work, ongoing work on the wastewater treatment plant, design for the upgrade, and Wright Pierce and our project manager from Environmental Partners will be here on the 24th of February to give you and the community an update on the design and progress that we're making. And so this is, the ongoing work, to be ready for next, not this year, but next year.
Okay, we're going to have the timeline, they're going to have a timeline so we can see how we're progressing towards the goal.
Yep.
And what about the DEP with their approvals? Where do we stand with that?
We have a draft permit. We sent some comments back, and the comments we're getting back from the EPA as well. We just may wait and issue a lot of these permits all at once rather than do them one by one. So we know the broad parameters of the permit, what the limits are. We ask for some consideration on how you calculate those limits that are more advantageous to us. So, but in terms of the overall design, that's not going to change what we designed to.
No, but a percentage point here or there makes all the difference in the world for your design too, right? If
Oh,
you
yeah,
choose
yeah,
the
yeah.
percentage of nitrogens or whatever, then
Without a doubt.
we're talking more money. And to design and without the firm goal in mind, that bothers me a little bit. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't bother these guys because they're all, maybe there's nothing to worry about. But I'm just concerned.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to get backdoored,
Yeah, no, and it won't change anything that we're doing, other than, it'll give us a little bit more flexibility to make sure we meet the permit, and not run into any kind of violations.
Is there any idea when they're going to issue their final permit?
It's the EPA.
Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. Forgive me.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Through you to Charlie. Charlie, this is just a minor thing, but the date on the invoice is November 7th.
Right.
And the line on the bottom says, invoices are due upon receipt if not paid by December 7th. Interest will be computed at the
No,
rate stated.
we don't pay interest.
All right.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, we are running a little behind on these bills with them, and we'll catch up, but, no,
I know we're
nothing
good
new with
for
that. Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Mr. Chair.
That's right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, through you
Yes.
to Charlie, also to
Yes.
verify something on this. It's showing that for instance, on the first one, that the fee earned to date is $90,301.74, and the previous billings were $70,869. Have we already paid those? Because
Yes.
okay.
Well, we paid, when we were going through this, I think there's one bill that we're missing, so we're contacting them to get us a duplicate of that bill. So that'll be coming shortly.
Okay, because on the billing recap, it does not indicate us having made any payment whatsoever.
Right, and we have.
Okay.
But again, remember,
On both of
this
these.
bill goes back to November.
All right, I just wanted to verify that we have. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've made payments that they haven't recorded, and they've sent us invoices that we don't have.
That's right.
That's good. I'm feeling more and more comfortable about this every minute.
Well, it's been said out loud now, so
What?
it's been said out loud
Yeah,
now,
here we
so.
go. Okay, seeing that we have a firm grasp on this, motion, pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is to vote to appoint the town manager's, ratify the town manager's appointment of Kathleen Foy as a member of the Historical Commission. And Kathleen here?
No, it's not.
Okay. Would you like to speak to this, job?
Yes, Ms. Foy is, I interviewed her a couple weeks ago. She used to actually work for the Historical Commission as their clerical person, and she's maintained an interest and now has the ability and the time to devote to being a member, and is looking forward to it.
Okay, very good. Comments from the board? Questions? Pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We're going to have a bit of a discussion on the 4 Level Street property. Complaints have been raised about the structural soundness of the building, the condition of the property, and the possible hazards. The building has been placarded by the fire department with a red X, which is an indicator to the fire service not to enter unless there's definite proof that there's a person, somebody trapped in the building. I've talked to the fire chief about this. My concern isn't our own firefighters going into that building, but the possibility of our firefighters being tied up on something and then something happens there, out-of-town firefighters come in and try to go in and do something, and then we wind up with a line of duty death, and I certainly wouldn't want to see that happen. So, one of the things that I've done is I've asked Charlie, to the town manager, to have the building inspector and the fire chief come over and take a look at this. Do you have a report, or?
Mr. Whalen's here. He was in the
Mr.
property
Whalen?
very recent.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Bob Whalen, Middleborough Building Commissioner. I did have the opportunity to tour the property last Friday afternoon with Chief Lance Benjamino, Captain Carl Reed, and the attorney for the estate, Norm Sherman. Last time we were out there was in 2004, and not much has changed. The west side of the building, there's a bay window, approximately 6 foot long. They are going to be removing that bay window because it's starting to sag and fall off the side of the building. Other than that, the interior of the building, all the original horsehair plaster is still on the walls and the ceilings. The building is empty, except for the original 1950s appliances that are still in there. There's no furniture. There's an issue with the second floor floor joist where the roof was leaking. Back before they did reshingle the roof, I did supply some photos. I don't know if we're going to get to see those. When they take out that section of the bay window, they are going to put a wall up to support. There's approximately 6 feet of floor joist that wall supports. So that will take the support for the second floor, and then they're going to install new plywood on that area. Right now, that's the only structural issue with the building. The foundation's fine, first floor floor joists are fine. There's no indication that it's leaning or racking in any way. I mean, it's not nice looking, but it's not going to fall down.
Okay, there's going to be weather, I don't want to say weatherproof, but there are certain areas.
Right now, there are 2 areas where the birds are getting in. Right now, that was the only signs of any wildlife we saw that were in there where the birds were getting in. There was nothing else the day we went in there. When they go out there, they are going to take care of those spots. Basically, he's got a punch list that he agreed with the chief and I that he's going to take care of. He's going to send the landscaper back out there to clear all the brush and the shrubs in the front yard. The tree that came down on the left side, they want to keep that there because that keeps people from driving out back and dumping trash. Because right now, with the exception of a couple of coffee cups out front, there's no trash in the backyard like there's been in the past.
Okay. Is there any possibility of putting a fence across the front of that, chain link fence? Keep people out of there?
We can ask for it, we can't require it. Basically, the only thing he's required to do is to keep it boarded up, and right now it's secure. So as the building department stands right now, there are no violations on the property.
There's been talk, and you know how these things go, with rumors or whatever. There was talk of holes in the floor. There are no holes in the floor
There are
inside?
holes up on the second floor where the floor was leaking. They are gonna repatch that.
That's gonna be repaired?
Yep.
But there's no holes like if you come in the front door or anything like that?
No, no, there are some of the old fur flooring is missing, but the subfloor is still underneath there. There is no hole to the basement.
All right, so nobody can fall through
No.
if they did get in there, all right?
The only chance of falling through is up on the second floor. That's why the chief placarded it. That's why I placarded it. It's noted on the placard that there's a danger of the second floor.
Okay. All right. And you have a report you've put together for everything that's got the punch list items and
Yep.
all that? Will you send that to us?
I will.
When you get it completed? Okay, good. All right.
Mr. Whalen did provide some photographs. I don't know if you want to see them. We could, I think, he described accurately what they represent.
Okay.
It is secure, the inside is
So
still.
it doesn't look like anybody's been in there other than the birds?
No, there's no sign. There are some materials that were in the basement that were up on the second floor. We did get a call back about 2 years ago. Some kids had plied one of the sheets of plywood off. We did go by and secure that. They pulled the hasp off the front door that's now screwed on there, so they can't pull it off again. Basically, you're not getting in the building unless you break in. And to let everybody know, there's nothing in there. There's no copper. There's nothing worth going after in there.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I don't mind speaking, if that's okay.
Would you please come up?
Hi, my name's Ashley. I currently live at 6 Level Street. I bought this property in July of 2012. I was under the impression that this lot was being cleaned based on what I was told from previous people, that they had seen people coming in and cleaning the lot. I can say that this lot has not been touched since either late summer or beginning fall of 2012, at which time the company came in with a large machine and mowed everything down but didn't take it. There is about at least a foot difference between my property and theirs with all the brush. There is trash on the property. The reason you probably haven't seen it is because I've been picking it up. I find at least 1 to 2 bags of liquor bottles still half full, nips with caps still on them, and as a mother of a 7-year-old child, I'm not going to leave that on the property. So I clean them up. There has been trash in the backyard. I have pictures of it. It's still currently there as of when I left for this meeting. There is a trash can, there's a big cooler, there's a tire, there's broken lawn chairs, there's buckets. It's not clean. I've had issues with raccoons, skunks, possums, all in the last 6 months. There is a area on the, if you're looking at the property, on the right-hand side that borders my driveway, right over another one of the bay windows. If you look underneath it, the squirrels will come into it, run across the roof, get more leaves or debris, bring it back into the house. I do believe that at one point the previous owners of my home were feeding the animals, and when the woman who lived there had passed away, the animals knew where the food came from and they dug a hole into the side of my house. They then went through into my cabinets and took the food. So once I moved in and I saw that, I did have to clean that, grabbed permits to re-insulate and close those holes off. We had some trees from that property that snapped in the windstorm, and I did have to pay about $900 to have that come in and get cleaned up, which dented a portion of my fence on my property, which is used to border off this property. It's been nothing but an issue. Normally I don't mind if it's taken care of, but it hasn't been, and it's become my problem. And it's been an issue for the neighbors on my street for many years. I lived on that street in 2003. This property doesn't look any different. I'm not new to Level Street. I know exactly what it looked like then, and it looks only worse now. I just don't want to see somebody get hurt nor do I want to see children get hurt. This house is one house away from a bus stop. 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the afternoon, you have children from kindergarten to high school that walk by this property, and they do try to play on it. I'm not there all the day to keep them off of it, and I just don't want to see anyone get hurt, but I'd just like to see it either kept clean or kept safe. Almost every single house on my property has a child in it. That was one of the reasons why I picked Level Street. I'm a single parent, and I want to have somewhere that's safe for my daughter to play. And right now, I don't really feel like we have that on this street. So anything that we can do at this point is better than nothing, and that's what's been happening since at least 2012, from what I've seen from physically being there myself. Anything is better.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so you'll get us the report, and when are they going to start the repairs? Do you know?
You're going to call me just... The attorney in charge of the estate is going to contact me this week and let me know what date they're planning on starting the repairs.
Would you include that in the report too?
I will.
Because we want to make sure that it just doesn't become a war of words. We want to see a war of action. Okay?
That's fine.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir?
Okay, sir. My name is Bob Waterman. I live at 2 Level Street on the other side from where Ashley is. The property from what was described by Mr. Whalen is pretty accurate. However, there are a couple of other areas that I had concerns about. One is that at the rear of the property, at the apex of the roof, the soffit is actually pulled away from the roof itself. Looking from our property up at that corner, you can actually see that it's pulled away by about a foot at the apex. So we were always watching squirrels running up through and into that section there. It almost became a game to us, seeing all the different squirrels running up there and inside, as well as holes that are on the side of the house. In addition to that, we had concerns about the trees on the property. In October of 2012, we had one of the trees come down right against our home. And when you actually get a look at the tree that had come down, it had split in half, but it had been rotted on the inside of that. The remainder of that tree is still there and is in danger of falling directly onto Level Street itself. So there's more than just the actual structure. There's the property itself. There's other trees that are rotting as well and in danger of coming down in one direction or another. So I would ask that maybe someone take a look at trees on the property as well as the structure.
Okay. Bob, did you get that? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Mr.
Board
Chair,
members? Yes.
can we give the attorney for the phone number for the attorney who's overseeing the property to the neighbors so that they can call the attorney directly?
Do we have his number?
I think Mr. Whalen does.
I actually also have it. I believe I put it up on Facebook. We have the information from Mr. Sherman.
Is it Patricia's husband?
Yes.
Her name is hyphenated, Patricia Barry Sherman.
Yes, I believe that's his wife. If I could for just a
Who
second.
might you be, sir?
Adam Bond, 8 Rock Street. I just have a quick question. My understanding from speaking to Bob was that one of the reasons they say they can't sell it, they can't do much with it is an estate fight, an estate battle over title. I know there's no requirement that they do any of this stuff, that they put up a fence or that they provide the following piece of information, but they've made a representation that, look, we can't do anything to this property of any significance because it's in an estate battle. I'm wondering if Bob, despite the fact they don't have to give it to him, could ask for the probate court docket number or the name of the estate, because it may be that a court which is working with the property, basically handling the issue of this property, might have more to say to private citizens petitioning it and have more power than the board at the moment. That's not said out of disrespect. That's just said out of the boards have very limited scopes. He's now saying if all the punch list is being done and it's structurally sound and it's secured, that's about all he can do. That's fair enough. That's where we ended up in '04. But at least it got cleaned up a bit. But with the information as to what the estate is, what docket number it is, what the tracking order is, any of that stuff, to see, since he's made the representation to your building inspector, maybe we could have Mr. Whalen at least ask for it as an aside, and we might get it.
You take care of that?
Although it's not required to get it.
I can certainly ask for it, whether or not
Worst I
they
can say
provide
is
it.
no.
Yep,
I can't hit you.
absolutely.
Okay? All right. And according to this document I have relative to this Chapter 143, Section 7, if it gets to it, I'm not saying that we have to do this tonight, but if it gets to it, the Board of Selectmen can order a fence be put up to protect the public. So, but we don't have to run down that road until it's necessary. Gives us some leverage.
Richard Gillis, Bourne Street. I have a question on something that was said about this issue tonight. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why the fire chief would not want his men in that building if there were a fire, and yet the building inspector is saying that basically it's okay for the owner to go in and do some work. It's not adding up. If it's not safe for the firefighters, I don't understand how it's possibly safe for somebody to go in there and do the fixing up.
Contractor can do fixing up a lot easier than firefighters in a fire situation, a fire ground situation, can deal with a building like that. There's more hazards involved there. Okay? I won't speak for the fire chief, but I have a little bit of experience with that. And, fire ground situations are an altogether different animal. Okay, any other comments or questions on this particular subject? Okay. Bob, you'll run with this and you'll get back with us.
Yep, he's supposed to contact me this week with a date. I'll include that in my report, and I'll get it out to the board.
Excellent, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the continuation of the hearing relative to the application for a major modification of existing site assignment for the Middleborough sanitary landfill.
Well, it's really not, you closed the hearing, you're just now deliberating and voting on the decision and findings from that hearing. We discussed the draft last week. Ms. Spalding worked with Mr. Risher and came up with a set of conditions that everybody is agreeable to, so I think we're ready for a vote.
Do I have to read this set of conditions?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
you just vote for the findings and the conditions.
All right, so everybody's aware of all the pertinent parties are aware of these conditions, and everybody agrees to it.
Correct.
Board members have any comments or questions? No? Okay. Pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. A motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Charlie, can this be put on the website too, so people can see?
Yeah, we can, and it's required that it be published within 7 days, so it also will be published.
Good, okay. All right, then we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We have next item on the agenda is to vote to approve and sign an agreement for nursing services between Middleborough and Lakeville. I think we've done this for probably the past 3 years,
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Gene, would you like to speak to this?
Gotcha.
This is the agreement for nursing services between the towns of Middleborough and Lakeville. This is what we've been doing for 3 years now,
3-4 years.
3 or 4 years?
Right, yes.
And this is for tracking various,
This is to provide them with communicable disease investigations and reporting that's required through the State Department of Public Health for health departments. The town of Lakeville was not able to sustain their contract for nursing services because the workload is so minimal for them. So they asked if we would pick that up for them, and we made the mutual aid agreement to compensate us.
Has this agreement expanded in any way over the years? Or is this the same agreement that's been?
It's basically the same scope of work and all. At one point, we had expanded it to include their body art inspections.
The what?
Their body art inspections.
Oh, body art, okay.
And we dropped that out of the contract when the Board of Health at that time opted to allow body piercing.
Okay.
So now it is back to the original contract. Okay.
So you don't inspect the body art anymore?
We don't,
No?
not for body
All the
piercing.
fun out of the job, don't they? Board
And I'm
members
sure
have
you
any
don't want me
comments?
to elaborate on that issue. Nope.
The only reason to be on the Board of the Health, what can I say? Any board
You
members have
volunteering? Are you volunteering?
any- Hey, you know, somebody's gonna do it.
Uh-huh.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I'm amazed that Jean made it through that whole thing with a straight face. That was very good.
She's pinching her hands. Probably breaking her fingers right now. Okay, pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Go and inspect. We have a motion, entertain a motion to continue the WRPD application by Cumberland Farms for 90 to 92E East Grove Street, map 65, lots 299 and 112, and 147 Wood Street, map 65, lot 372, to February 10th at 8:15 p.m.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Everybody get in it.
Take your pick.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is to discuss a request from the Green School Committee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to take the opportunity first just to give you folks and the public a brief update on where we're at. The committee's been meeting now regularly for about a year to get the preservation project complete. Just a couple of facts. As I'm out on the street talking to folks, they don't really understand what some of the history behind the Green School is, so if you could indulge me for just a couple of minutes. The Green School is not called the Green School because it's painted green. It actually sits in what used to be originally the center of our town. That was the training green up there where all of those roads come together. And that school and the church and the Sprout Tavern all sat on that site, that to comprise where government occurred, where schools occurred, where folks went to church, and so on and so forth. That school was built in 1871. It was in continual use until June of 1941 when it closed. It was reopened for a short period of time in the 1990s, and the Green School in 2009 was threatened with demolition. Thanks to the interest of the community, supported by financial contributions by residents and former pupils, the building has now been preserved and the exterior restored. A new use for the structure is currently under consideration. We're also at the point where, as a committee, we're trying to move forward to make that a viable, make it viable for use. And to do that, we have two requests. I'm going to do one tonight and another one after the school committee takes their vote later in the week. I was told that that vote had already been taken, to take the school and turn it over to you folks and put it under your authority. But that'll come in the future. At this stage of the game, there's a fairly large piece of town-owned property that surrounds the small lot that the Green School sits on. And what we're asking at this point in time, and I think Charlie has provided a map up there, is to take a portion of that property and subdivide it and add it to the Green School property so that we'll have enough room to provide parking for whatever uses eventually we come up with. As it stands right now, there's not enough area there for us to even put a handicap ramp in, and certainly not to have a place to park any vehicles to use the building. So the request tonight, realistically, is to allow for the subdivision of that piece of property and have it added to the Green School property. And what you would actually be doing, and Charlie can correct me if I'm wrong, but by you taking a vote to do that would allow a town meeting warrant article, which will be necessary to combine the two parcels, ultimately.
Are you taking the whole parcel?
No.
And adding it?
No, maybe Charlie can clarify that.
There's a stream that comes right along here, and this is obviously all wetlands. And the idea would be to just continue that line across. That's one.
Right here. This is town-owned property right here. Should have used to cut this piece off right here.
Oh,
Thank you.
So it's just a very small piece.
It is. The other side of that, it will require some engineering to actually create the subdivision plan and layout so that it can ultimately be filed at the registry. We have another donation. This whole project at this point in time has been done with donations from concerned citizens and so on. Jeff Youngquist of Outback Engineering has agreed to do this for us. So we've got one more piece of it that we need to send a thank you note out on. So that's our request at this point.
This piece of land that you want to move over, so you're going up to a stream, so that's your,
There is a brook that runs out through there, yes.
or are you going beyond it?
No, it actually goes right to that location.
Okay. All right. And that's going to be enough parking? That'll give you
It will
enough
be,
parking?
yeah, very adequate.
Board members have any comments or questions?
just as it relates to the abutter, is there a plan to keep a certain amount of vegetation in between there in the parking lot? Just as it relates to the abutter there, it looks like, is there going to be a plan to leave a certain amount of vegetation in place from between the parking lot and that abutter?
Hi, Lincoln Andrews, 28 Sachem Street. I know the abutter, and I've spent time with him, and I was with him on Sunday. And so as you're facing the Green School, the abutter is on the right. And so the property is in between him and the Green School. His property line runs just about adjacent to his driveway, about 10 feet off of it. He bought the property as part of, as I understand it from what he was telling me, as part of the tax taking, and when it was auctioned off in 1978. The entire parcel, the remaining parcel, is approximately 6 acres. And he bought this section with a house on it, which is a historical house. And so the property in between the two that's owned by the town is all uplands. And it's a pretty substantial piece of property. And the amount of area that it would provide for public parking is terrific.
That answer your question, Mr. Quill? Okay.
I'm going to take this opportunity because you're here now. It's a great location. Would you be entertaining any ideas in the future of possibly having a visitor stop there to pick up information about the town? Just throwing stuff out there.
Absolutely. The bottom line is, when it comes to uses, we're going to be coming in with a proposal at some point in time. You folks are going to be the ones who grant usage. We can make recommendations. And ultimately, we want to see the building used. We don't want to go through this whole process restoring a historic building only to have it go back into disrepair through non-use. And at this point in time, we're looking at probably 3 or 4 different possible uses. We've had some interest. There is some definite interest. But that's for further down the road. But in answer to your direct question, yes.
And real quickly, too, could you get the information about it to the Office of Economic and Community Development? In case you didn't know, we're compiling all this information about the town, so, and anyone out there listening, if you have an historic building or organization as well.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely can do that.
I guess,
Any other comment?
just last
Yeah.
question, what utilities are running to that building, if any?
Right now, there is electricity and an alarm system in the building, Ben. There's gas going to it, there's a septic system there that we'll need to do at some point in time. I believe, I haven't talked to Gene about it, but probably a Title V. It appears to be okay, and we're told that it's okay. But those are the only utilities there at this point.
Is there any opportunity for hookup?
Mm-hmm.
There is. And that would include gas as well?
Yes.
Okay.
John?
Nope, fine.
Just thanks again for all the hard work you guys are doing out there.
Okay, so we're, pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Now, one more peripheral request that actually should be a little bit easier, I think. The committee, the Preservation Committee at this point in time has approached the Community Preservation Committee as a funding source. And we'll be filing an application with them before this month is out. Part of that process is asking for, is to include letters of support. So I'm asking you as a Board of Selectmen, if you would be willing to give us a letter to the Community Preservation Committee in support of this project.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Frawley?
make a motion, we ask Jackie to write a letter of support for the Green School Preservation Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. I'll be back.
I'm sure you will.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to Selectman Frawley, when I was Selectman, my son was about 10 years old, and when he saw me on TV, I said, "Look, there's Dad on TV," and he told me that's not real TV.
Wisdom beyond his years. Okay. 7:45.
Yeah, we're right on time.
By the way, one thing, Waste Management, since they were here, everybody should know is that they were never really publicly recognized, but Waste Management took $4,000 worth of contaminated soil gratis from us in support of the Green School.
Well,
So
thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Peter for that publicly.
Very appreciative of what you do down there. Thank you. 7:45, we have Mr. Lee Hartman from the Plymouth Planning and Development Director. Presentation of the Plymouth's Tourism Development
We
Plan.
talked to Jackie about how to do that.
What are we doing?
He's doing a PowerPoint, so he's going to plug it in. So while he's doing that, I'll just say I met Mr. Hartman over in Plymouth at Destination Plymouth. And it's been my experience when you see someone's doing something well and right, to use them as a model. And Plymouth, the town of Plymouth has definitely mastered how to market their tourism and make money off of it. And therefore, Mr. Hartman volunteered to come and give us a brief presentation of how they did it.
Excellent.
This is the hardest part.
Technology at its
I know,
finest.
I know.
Mr. Hartman, you want to take a couple minutes and get your little gizmo going, and then we can go to the town manager's report. We could handle that.
This is ready. I think it's ready.
See, I just have to scare it, that's all.
You're gonna come over and slam it down.
Do we have a password or anything on this?
Don't announce it.
Right here.
Where's the delete button?
Top.
It's hiding on me. Insert, delete, got it. All right, so we have a password for you?
Yeah.
Oh, nobody will see that on. So we could talk about security some night, huh? What do you think? Don't say it out loud, because my God.
How long's the town manager?
Long enough.
Okay. So my name's Lee Hartman. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the Town of Plymouth. I've done that for, I think that's I've been in this position for about 11 years now. So we have a staff of about 13 who work in planning and development, and one of the many things we do is the tourism part of what happens in Plymouth. And you're lucky because normally the planning board meets on Monday night, every Monday night, but this is one of the few Monday nights where I don't have a planning board. So for fun, I come here.
There you go.
All right.
Don't you be telling stories about our meetings back there.
All right. So what we do in Plymouth, and what I was asked to kind of start with, is talk about how we deal with promotion from the town of Plymouth standpoint. So we have the local option of the hotel motel tax. We had the recent option where it was 4% or 4.5%. We accepted the provision to go to 6%. So the hotel motel tax in Plymouth is 6%. In 1993, the town did something that very few towns have ever done. We went to the state and we had special legislation that town meeting approved. We brought through to the state legislature that created a special act creating what we call the promotion fund. And what that promotion fund says is that 45% of the hotel motel tax is set aside into a special account called the promotion fund. The remaining 55% plus any interest that would be ever accrued on that money all goes into the general fund to support all the other uses, schools, police, fire, normal operating amounts. But 45% was set aside for the promotion fund. The act also says that in Plymouth, and there's no magic to this, it's just the act that Plymouth decided to create, that there would be a 7-member visitors service board that oversees the promotion fund and makes recommendations on it. And the other thing, when we were looking to go to town meeting, to ask town meeting to approve the special act, and we were obviously 45% of the hotel motel tax used to go to the general fund, and now we're saying, well, we're going to pull that out of the general fund, which means you're going to have to make that money up some other way and dedicate this money. So one of the things we said was we'd set aside 10% of the money that's in this fund for public improvements. Now, public improvements is pretty broad and allows us to do a lot of different things, but again, the intent was not everything went to strictly promoting Plymouth. We also had money set aside for things that the DPW may want to have done too, and use that directly, public improvements that directly support tourism. And like any other article, any other thing you do in town government, each year we have to bring an article forward to town meeting, ask for their authorization to spend the money we have for that year. So the Visitor Services Board is a 7-member committee. We have a member of the Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Plymouth County Development Council. We used to have, although it's not active anymore in Plymouth, the Plymouth Development Industrial Commission,
a realtor, a retailer, and 3 citizens at large. Now, because that committee doesn't really function anymore, there is language in the special act that said, oh, if one of these committees ceases to exist, selectmen can appoint, and it just says qualified individual. And that's what we've done actually with the position for the Development and Industrial Commission. Also, I provide direct support to the committee, as well as we have an administrative assistant who supports them. And in addition to what we do with the promotion fund and overseeing the work of the Visitor Services Board, they meet tomorrow night to actually set next year's budget. We also coordinate all the events that happen in the town of Plymouth. So when an event comes to Plymouth, we as staff provide the coordination to make sure police, fire, DPW, if you need barrels, you need fire protection, ambulance service. And we also in Plymouth have the state park and the state forest, and we coordinate with the state officials too. So any event that comes to Plymouth, even if it's not supported by the promotion fund, comes through our office to make sure that there are no surprises. And this day and age, especially with what happened in Boston with the marathon, it's become even more critical to make sure that when we have some of these events, and some of them are very large, like the 4th of July, that we have adequate public safety in place. The other thing I think that's important to note, and the thing that really makes it work really well in Plymouth, is the money we provide, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the money we get from the promotion fund, represents only about 20% of the money we actually spend on tourism. The other 80% comes from Destination Plymouth, which is our partner for tourism in Plymouth, and that's through their membership. They have a partnership with the Plymouth County and Convention Visitors Bureau, and they also are state grants that come through to Destination Plymouth and the Visitors Bureau through the state Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, and also the Chamber of Commerce is very active in tourism in Plymouth. We actually made a thing up called Team Plymouth, and every once in a while somebody would say, well, I don't know, what's Team Plymouth? And it was just myself, the Chamber, and Paul Cripps from Destination Plymouth, and when we apply for grants, we say this grant is applied for by Team Plymouth. This actually works really well, but it's just something we made up. So when we look at our hotels in Plymouth and what comes in Plymouth, we get about $19 million a year that comes to Plymouth just in gross revenues for rooms. That doesn't count anything else. That's just what we get for revenue in rooms. And when you look at that 6% tax, that represents about $1,144,000 a year this year that came to Plymouth from the hotel motel tax. And as I talked about previously, we have a split of that tax. So $629,000 goes into the general fund. If you look at my numbers, not all of them are going to add up because some of it I just rounded up. So I can give it to you to the penny, but again, I think for this presentation, some of these numbers, if you try to add them up, they're probably not going to be exact. But again, $629,000 goes to the general fund, and this year we have the largest amount ever that's going into the promotion fund, which is $515,000. And what we'll be doing with that money this year is about the 10%, $51,000 goes into the public improvements account, or line item. $250,000 goes to the visitor center, which we have on Water Street, and marketing through Destination Plymouth. And again, when we look at that $250,000, that only represents about 20% of what's actually spent in the town of Plymouth on tourism, but that's the town's contribution. And then we have about another $168,000 that comes in to support various events that I'll talk a little bit about. We have a sister city relationship with Shishikahama in Japan and with Plymouth, England. And so each year we set aside $5,000. We don't necessarily use it each year, but we set aside $5,000 a year for distinguished guests. And as you know, in municipal government and municipal budgets, it's really hard when somebody comes to your community and they bring gifts, especially the Japanese, with all these wonderful gifts, and you're just begging and pleading with people to get an ashtray or whatever else you can get from somewhere. We have the little squeeze rocks or something, so it's nice to have some money set aside that we can use to actually have decent gifts and respectable gifts for dignitaries who come from other countries. And then for Plymouth, we have our 400th celebration, 400th anniversary that's coming up in 2020. And so each and every year we're setting aside money to help sponsor, support those events that are coming on. And what's also important to note is unlike the general fund and unlike other sources of revenue, because this is a special act and special legislation that created this account, every time there's an event, and usually it's if you have this year we had a couple of events that were canceled, that money just rolls into the next year that we can then use for next year's events. So the money never goes away, it always stays in the promotion fund, and if we don't use it this year, we get to use it next year. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but we talked a little bit about our Destination Plymouth and the relationship we have with them. We have a number of events that we provide funding to. It's a 4-to-1 match, so basically what happens is when you come in and say, we have an event we want to do in Plymouth, we expect them to provide $4 for every dollar we provide. And the other criteria is when we do an event, it has to be done by a nonprofit. We're not making money available to for-profit agencies to run events. And again, you can see a fairly lengthy list. We also have what's called first-time events when somebody comes in. So we had 3 first-time events last year. And then the miscellaneous item here that you see are mainly the money we use for public improvements. And so some of those are the decorations you see at Christmas, the plantings we have in downtown in the summertime, tourism event boards. We have the infamous or famous, however you want to look at it, Showmobile, which is a movable band shell that we've provided money to help maintain support for websites and trade shows. When I've talked to people in Plymouth about what tourism is, and people, especially even in the business of tourism, take it for granted. You don't really try to do it quietly, and they really aren't out there saying, this is really important to the community. So I've recently started to go through the next few slides to educate people in town Plymouth what it really means. So when you look at Massachusetts has done a few studies on tourism, and they say for about every $20 you spend on rooms, if you're a guest, I'm a visitor, I come to Plymouth, I spend $20 on a room. For every $20, I'm spending $80 somewhere else, eating, going on the whale watch, going to the plantation, doing other things, restaurants, shopping, other things that people do. So that when we look at that initial number I showed you for rooms, we can confidently say that in Plymouth, get about $100 million a year just for the people who are spending nights at Plymouth. That doesn't include the day trippers or the people who come by boat. So it's very interesting when I start to present this to let people know, forgetting about everything else, just people who come to hotels in Plymouth, it's about $100 million a year. We have 300 events in Plymouth, and it's growing. We had a 16% increase over last year. One of the ones that has come up a lot now is the runs, the walks. Very, very popular. We have sometimes 2 or 3 a weekend where we have these different runs and walks occurring. And again, 300 events and growing each and every year. We're also actively looking at cruise lines. Middleborough, can't really have a cruise line coming to Middleborough, but again, for us, it's something that we're looking to try to capitalize on, and we do have cruises that are starting to come to Plymouth too. They're smaller, but again, it's still a market we really haven't tapped into before. We also, with some of the money we have from the promotion funds, have supported a request from the Chamber of Commerce where we have some spots on some airlines. And again, you can see here about 60,000 flights, over 5 million people have seen this ad that says come to Plymouth. It's also the same ad that we've, in addition to putting on some of the airlines, we've also put on some of the cable networks in the United States. And again, a lot of this is stuff we couldn't do if we hadn't set aside the money from the hotel motel tax. And same thing as we talk to the community, we want to remind them that it's not just about the Mayflower, it's not just about Plymouth Plantation. Those people who come here are also coming to eat, they're coming to go to our shops, they're doing more things than just coming here and going to see an attraction. And when we look at what we have for employment stats, our accommodations and foods, we have 153 different businesses representing about $50 million with about 3,000 people employed in our hotels and food employment sectors in Plymouth. Our retail businesses, we have about 219 of those, representing again about $100 million coming in with 3,700 employees. Arts, entertainment, recreation, 37 different businesses with about 18 million coming in revenues each year for those different venues. And let's see what we have. And so we also have our waterfront. We're very fortunate to have a great waterfront. And when we look at that waterfront, we have about 700 employees tied directly to what happens on our waterfront, with about $18 million a year coming annually for recreational boating, And that doesn't include what happens with the commercial fishing part. So when we look at all that and we add it all up, we can confidently say that in Plymouth, tourism represents about $325 million a year business for Plymouth. So again, it's pretty big business. The other thing we're doing is also looking at tourism for ecotourism. So trails, biking, hiking, camping, boating. We have the Miles Standard State Forest. We, as we do in Middleborough, have great open spaces, great places for people to come. And so one of the things that we're really starting to do right now is really try to tap into that resource too. So that was all I was doing for a presentation. The other thing I have here that I'll just kind of run through, if you have some questions you'd like to ask, is just a piece that we have from Destination Plymouth. And I just think it's important to note that it's easy to say we spend $200,000 a year on, $200,000 a year on tourism, but what I think is important is also when I look at this slide, the types of things that the places we're advertising from. So I'll just load this up. I think it runs on the loop, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
You started off with the 45%. That's many towns, including, we're not in that position to do that at this point. Could you emphasize some other ways in the community that Plymouth was able to bring things together and organize them?
There's never a good time in government to do something. I mean, I've worked in government since 1987, and I don't think I've ever been in a position where we've said, we've got money this year. You know, there's never a good time. And so I think if you're waiting for the best fiscal times where you're going to have extra money, I've never seen it. And so I would say my answer is, I think you're better off looking at a smaller percentage than saying maybe there are other ways. You know, once you build it into your budget, the money, I don't want to say it isn't missed, but once you say that there's a certain amount, the first year or two, it might hurt, but once it's built into the budget, it's just part of how you do business. So, there may be other ways to look at how you raise money. I found that the most important thing for us is when the town actually is committing money, if the state becomes more aware of it, the state is more interested in matching our funds, businesses are more interested in matching, so I really find that the town money is very important when it comes to trying to convince other people to invest in Plymouth too. The money we're trying to get through the state for, say, the what do they call it now, MassWorks. Very important that they see that the town is also investing in it. So these things, just when I was running this on, it's various promotional packets that Destination Plymouth does. We have the local market, the domestic market, we also have international market too. So it's a pretty large pie, so it seems like it's kind of slowly there.
Destination Plymouth, that's made up of?
Well, Destination Plymouth is a private nonprofit group, and what we do is we run a 3-year contract, and so every 3 years we go out to bid for services. Now, Destination Plymouth, first of all, they're a great group and a great resource, but they have to bid every 3 years on the contract with the town. Now, it would be very difficult for somebody else to come in at this point because they have the membership, they have the hotels, the restaurants that are all members. But they're a private, nonprofit group. They're affiliated with the Plymouth County Convention and Tourist Bureau, I'll cover the word that. And, but again, they each, every 3 years, competitively have to bid on the contract to take and run the visitor center and do the promotion part of our work.
But it's made up basically of local businesses?
Yeah, it's entirely, it's all local businesses, restaurants, retailers, and hotels. And I think you need to invest in a new laptop, so.
Could be the newest, who knows?
I know. That's when I always say, Governor Bradford said it worked fine. I'm not sure why you're complaining.
Works for him, why shouldn't it work for us?
These are just, again, they're a series of, it's just,
Yeah, I guess we can.
Can you could you send us this file?
Sure,
Or-
I can just copy it onto the laptop. So
Right. And then we can,
Never get it off.
that way we can we can look it over.
And
And
again, all I was doing with this one was just wanted to show you some of the different advertising and destination things.
Board members have any questions?
Those are brochures that you put out?
Yes. And it's not-
Giving you some ideas? You might have a new friend. Board members, any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you coming down here and sharing this information with us. And congratulations. I think you do a great job by going to Plymouth. I don't know, since I was a little kid, my parents brought me down there. I found some new places myself, bring my kids down there. And we're certainly going to jump in your back pocket and learn as much as we can from you and hopefully partner with you and increase tourism in this part of the state.
And the good news is if the town of Middleborough wants to do this, and we have Destination Plymouth Bureau, right, and we have other, the Plymouth County Convention Bureau, I mean, there are great resources that are already there that you can benefit from the work that everybody else has been doing for.
Yeah, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. You know, the wheel's already rolling, so capitalize on it.
They have been great working with me in getting that grant that we just got,
Good.
so,
Good.
yeah.
But
They're
I
very-
also, I certainly appreciate what you say about the town making an investment, and that really shows a commitment to the state and to other areas of possible funding. When they see that we're committed to it, they're happy to help.
Hi there, Glenn Montepert, Marion Road. I know many of my counterparts internationally at the corporate world get 6 weeks vacation. I don't. So I'm wondering, when you started this, how many international visitors came and how many you have today?
It's really hard to kind of to track some of that because all of the local businesses don't like to share that information. It's a very difficult one to say.
Sure.
So most of it is from what you see. I know the plantation has some pretty good numbers. Probably a better question for Paul Cripps, who probably tracks it a little better than I do. But it's a growing part. We would probably do more marketing for Plymouth internationally than the whole Commonwealth has done in the last few years.
Might be able to answer some of that. Some of the statistics are Massachusetts as a whole had 22.8 million visitors for tourism last year, which is up about 2 million, I think, from a couple years ago when they measured it. Also, the international market is picking up. In the entire country, we are 5th for tourism. It is the 3rd largest industry in our state, 2nd largest in the entire country. We just had several airlines come into Logan, so they're making direct flights over to Japan. The Asian market is expanding, and over to Europe. And with those new airlines, they expect the international tourism to really explode. So.
My name's Brian Giovanoni, Rocky Meadow Street. What I found interesting is, thank you, Mr. Hartman, for coming, his position in Plymouth and what he's doing. It's an interaction of tourism with his everyday job as planner or planning department, which is, I think, a key piece of this. On top of the fact that someday we may just have to bite that bullet and fund this, maybe out of our room tax, which isn't quite as large as theirs, maybe 1/10 of it, but at least start somewhere. But the interaction between planning and tourism, because now Mr. Hartman sees what's coming in for development into the town, and he's got kind of a vision on that, which I think is a key item that we should have our eyes on as well.
Right. And I believe with talking about the hotel tax, Plymouth is kind of limited. They don't have enough hotel space all the time, and they're always referring people. And I think we're partnering more, and we are going to see many more referrals. We have 3 giant hotels here, right in town. So we should be looking in the next couple of years, everyone, for our hotel tax to be going up.
November, December, January, February, it gets very, very quiet. And so
Right.
when you look at the year-round, it's actually, when you look at occupancy and what different hotels make, it gets pretty lean because those are very quiet months. But yes, definitely. We have the new spa that's opening up, and hotel and spa opening up in the Pine Hills, which is very high-end. And so, that'll be interesting to see what that does also for the taxes. The other thing I should say is, again, I've done this now for a long time, and one of the key components to success, we have Dennis Hanks, who was in the Plymouth Area Chamber, who has recently left, Paul Cripps and myself, and it's really important to get people who can play together in the same sandbox. And one of the hardest things I've had in years past is when you have individuals who are a little difficult to work with. So I've been very, very lucky to have a group of very talented people all willing to work together, which is also another very important part of any team.
Definitely. Mr. Knowlton, any questions, comments? No. Mr. Cole?
No, fine,
I'll just go through these on the desktop for you.
Right. I really thank you for coming over tonight,
No problem.
giving your night up to come over here to the borough and educate us. This is a new adventure for us. Melani's running with this, and
Trying.
all we have is today.
I'm not sure if this screen isn't registered.
Nope.
Nope, okay.
The screen is not just like one for this.
Do you
have
want,
to
can
get
you
your
email
laptop
it?
and the- Well, there'll be one that I have.
This will be a capital expenditure, and we're talking about a lot of money here, so.
I can't put it on the tourism budget.
Yes, you
I had that money for something else, sorry, it's already spent.
Okay, so would you like the town manager's report?
I'd love the town manager's report.
Anticlimactic.
No, it isn't. Very short town manager's
Okay.
report. I included a letter from Mr. Roland Andrew from Oak Point with a suggestion about when we replace our collection containers, that we provide ample opportunity for people to recycle their existing containers, because apparently that wasn't done in Oak Point, and we thought that was a mistake. So I thought that was a very good suggestion, something that we hadn't thought about, and now we will think about as we move forward. And then, as you know, we had a meeting last Monday with Mass DOT and representatives of CSX to talk about the trash train and the problem with the parking of the trash train underneath the bridge on Center Street. And Mr. Montpert was kind enough to write up a summary of that meeting, which I gave to you as well. We're expecting a follow-up meeting with CSX, DOT, and Middleborough representatives, Fire Chief, SG&E, and the providers of that recyclable material, just to see if we can all get on the same page and solve the problem of the fires underneath the bridge.
I was by there this weekend, last weekend. The train seemed to have more than enough distance, because the engines were parked way down, closer to Route, say, 28.
Right.
The cars were up near the bridge, and there was like, I want to say there was probably 6 cars from the bridge past, going northbound, if you will, which could have all been moved down.
That's certainly
Straight down.
the way we see it, provided that they've got enough space to, not end up back on the main line. But just anecdotally from, looking at it, I see the same thing you do. I think Glenn sees the same thing as well, that they should have enough room to push that train back and not have a problem at all, and, do exactly what we're asking them to do, is keep it away from the bridge.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all I have.
That's it? Okay. Correspondence. Mr. Quell?
Get on that. Wow, just lost it. Okay, what happened? There it is. There we go. Well, we've all gotten Senator Pacheco's letter. But, you know, I just want to take this time to recognize, you know, all the people that have been fighting so hard for a design to get approved. All our department heads, our town managers, members of this board. I know, Alan, you've put a lot of personal time into it, and certainly our chairman, Mr. McKinnon, deserves a pat in the back. I know you were always sticking your nose in Serped and just kept it in there and kept it in there and never let up, you know, and that's, I'm sure you kind of, I know you're being modest about it, but, you know, the day finally kind of showed its light there, and I'm really happy for both of you. Now let's just hope we can get a schedule and get this thing going. And, well, I'm not going to steal it all. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowlton?
I'd also like to echo what Ben just said. You know, it certainly wasn't just a one-person push on this. There were a number of people who had made a mistake not to recognize everyone, you know, as Ben said, Charlie and members of this board, other members of our legislative delegation. There were just many people working on this and pushing it forward. Very much a collaborative effort, and, you know, wonderful that it's now moving forward.
Absolutely.
That would be my comment.
Anything else? No?
One final thing on the Rotary. I just wanted to note that Senator Pacheco did request for a Rotary design task force to make sure this doesn't fall through the cracks with the surrounding communities. And Secretary Davey has agreed to that. Also, we have listed the New England Blues Festival, Veterans Services at the Elks Lodge to be presented on March 15th. Music, dancing, food, a raffle, all that stuff. Show up, $12 a person. It's a great deal. That's all I have.
Well, I guess we're all going to talk about Mr. Pacheco's letter. But I'd like to volunteer to be on the Rotary Design Task Force.
Sure, that'll just make them tickled pink.
I'll be disappointed to see me again.
Definitely entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
We have a motion and a
Second?
We have a second? Okay.
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Mr. Frawley, you are in.
Beautiful. My wife will be very happy.
Be pleased. That takes care of your last night at home, right?
Yeah. That's
There
it.
you go. Anything else?
Thank you to Senator Pacheco, Representative Coulter, Representative Oral, Representative Gifford for all their hard work getting this done, and to Charlie and to Ruth. Ruth has been working on this for 25, 30 years. So, thank you, Ruth.
Did this, when this was announced last week, was there a motion for letters of thanks to go out?
No, but I think that would be appropriate, and we'll prepare them.
Okay. I would like to get letters of thanks not only to our legislative delegation, but obviously to the troops at District 5 who worked on making this happen, and also to the folks at Serped, because I'm sure they were working on that diligently also. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We're going to leave out a lot of people, I'm sure, because this hasn't been just, you know, it's just didn't start last December. You know, it's been going on, like you said, for 25 years. So, but to all those people out there who made this happen, who've been working on this for all these years, thank you very, very much. You know, we're just happen to be here when the brass ring came by and we grabbed it, but, you know, It's
Well,
been
we're
in
not
the
done
works
yet.
for a
No,
while.
we're not giving up yet.
Well, no.
This is a step in the right direction, but we're not gonna.
No, they haven't, we
I speak
haven't
for
quite,
myself, I'm not letting up yet.
we haven't put the lines down on the pavement, to
Right.
say that we're all set here, but it looks a lot more promising today than it
Certainly
did
does.
6 months ago, let's put it that way. But I do want to get those letters of thanks out to everybody. I don't believe I have anything, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you all very much, and good night.